Well, the first patch of Radiant Wilds is live, and before we get into the final balance changes again, here are a few extra things that you might have missed in this update. First, we have the Rites of Spring rewards coming back. If you still have any surprise eggs, you can now trade them at the Vanity Merchant for cosmetics like the Executioner Weapon, Bunny Stalker set, furniture or chocolate bars. This is only available for a limited time until the next patch, so if you have eggs, make sure to use them. Next, we have small quality of life changes. The always option is removed from the destroy item confirmation, so there will be fewer accidental deletes. For controller and mobile players, there is a new setting called situational movement spell targeting. This basically makes movement abilities automatically go in the direction you are facing if there is no valid target, which should make things feel much smoother. Also, destroying items on controller now requires holding the button longer, again to avoid mistakes. Now we are gonna talk about the spell fixes. Phase Barrier no longer removes debuffs. Adrenaline Boost bug fixed where it could randomly end early. Piercing Light had an incorrect range in the description and it is now fixed. And then a few targeting fixes for mobile and controller abilities, mostly just making them behave correctly. Then we have few UI and general fixes. Black Market edit button issue is fixed. Scoreboard now properly shows kills and deaths in custom arenas, and off-screen party markers are now visible again. An Xbox had issues with recently played players and keybinds, and both of them are fixed. And controller had some bugs like unresponsive character and missing health bars, also fixed. And for mobile players, there is one important thing: your custom HUD layout has been reset to default because of this patch. So if you are using a custom setup, you need to go back into the settings and select it again. Also, a bunch of targeting issues have been fixed and the any auto targets option has been removed. And finally, 5 vs 5 Crystal League now uses the correct map, plus a bunch of smaller graphical UI and performance fixes. Now let's get into the actual buffs and nerfs. There are changes for every item you see in my inventory right now, and the numbers I'm going to mention are base values. They will scale with item tier and your specialization, so keep that in mind. But I will tell you the percentages so you can understand better. Well, we have two changes for the whole X3. First, we have a change coming to Adrenaline Rush, which is the second W spell. This ability gives you strong buff, increasing your damage, attack speed and movement speed. And the change is the maximum duration is going from 7 seconds to 9 seconds, which is about 28% increase. This basically means you have more time to keep the buff active, making it easier to stick to targets and maintain pressure, especially in 1 vs 1 fights. Next, we have a change coming to Random Strike, which is the first Q spell for X's. And the change is the stand time is completely removed, going from 0.2 seconds to 0 seconds. What this means is you can now use this ability without slowing yourself down at all. Before, every time you used it, you had a tiny delay. Now that's gone. The only trade-off is if you keep spamming this while chasing, you are not auto-attacking, so you are choosing between Q spam or auto-attacks. Next, we have a change coming to Sky's Fury, which is the E spell for Sky Strider bow, the crystal bow. This ability lets you jump up, become untargetable and fire multiple bolts that deal AoE damage. It is very strong for both dodging and dealing damage at the same time. So it's like an offensive and defensive spell at the same time. And the change is the damage is getting reduced from 128 to 123, which is around a 4% nerf. So what does this mean? It means slightly less burst damage from the bolts, lowers the overall damage while you are untargetable. This is a small nerf, but since it just got nerfed in the last patch, it adds up. Next, we have a change coming to the E spell of the regular bow. This ability buffs your auto attacks, giving you a big attack speed boost and massively increasing your damage for a few shots. And the change is when enemies are within 6 meters, the bonus auto attack damage is reduced from 220% to 200%, which is about a 9% nerf in close range. What this means is your close range damage is weaker, less burst when enemy is right on top of you, but outside of 6 meters, nothing changes. Overall, this is a targeted nerf to reduce how strong the bow is in close range fights, giving opponents more counterplay. And next up, we have a change coming to Bane, which is the first passive for Cursed Staffs. This passive makes every 4 auto attack trigger a small AoE explosion, adding extra damage over time. Now the change is the damage is increased around 5%. What this means, slightly more damage from your auto attacks, better overall DPS, especially in longer fights. Next we have a change coming to Grudge, which is the third W spell for Cursed Staffs. This ability buffs auto attacks, making them deal extra damage based on how long they wait between hits. So the longer they wait, the bigger the hit. Now the change, the damage is being reduced across all timings. All of them are getting nerfed around 10%. Next we have a change coming to Haunting Screams, which is the E spell for the Cursed Skull. This ability creates a move in AoE that deals damage over time, including true damage based on the enemy's maximum HP, making it strong against tanky targets. Now the change, the maximum HP through damage is increased from 1.2% to 1.5%, which is a 25% buff. And this means much stronger against high HP targets, better at melting tanks and frontline players. Overall, this sounds like a decent buff. Next, we have a change coming to the E spell of Rot Color Staff. This ability knocks enemies back, deals damage and applies a strong anti-heal effect, making it powerful in group fights. Now the change, the damage is reduced from 171 to 161, which is about a 6% nerf. What this means is slightly less burst damage, anti-heal stays the same, which is the main strength of this item anyways. Overall, this is a small nerf, mainly targeting its burst while keeping the utility strong. Then we have a change coming for the third Q spell for Nature Staffs. This ability places a flower that heals allies instantly and applies healing over time, depending on how long it grows. And the change is the instant heal is being reduced at all stages. It's like around 15%. And this means lower burst healing when the flower is consumed, easier to pressure and wear down nature players in fights. Overall, this is a clear nerf targeting that 1 vs 1 toxic builds. Then we have a change coming to Adaptive Matter, which is the third Q spell for Shapeshifter Staffs. This ability deals damage and gives you a shield, while also generating shift charges to empower your transformations. And the changes are cooldown is increased from 6 seconds to 7 seconds, which is 17% longer, and the energy cost increased from 10 to 12, which is 20% more. And this means slower charge generation and higher energy consumption over time. Overall, it's a nerf obviously, mainly targeting how fast shapeshifters can stack and cycle their abilities, I guess. Then we have a change coming to Shockwave, which is the fourth Q spell for War Gloves. This ability lets you throw a projectile for damage, and if you hit someone, you can dash to them as a follow-up. Now the change, damage is reduced from 122 to 117, which is around 4% nerf. And the dash cooldown is increased from 5 seconds to 6 seconds, which is 20% longer. And this means slightly less damage on hit and slower mobility if you use the dash. Overall, this is a nerf targeting both its damage and how often you can engage with the dash. Next, we have a change coming to Immortal, which is the third spell on the Mistwalker Hood. This ability makes you unable to drop below 1% HP for a short duration, basically giving you a clutch survival window. Now the change, the duration is reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, which is about a 17% nerf. And obviously this means less time to survive at 1 HP and smaller window to turn fights around. Overall, this is a clear nerf, especially for 1 vs 1, where this ability was very strong. And then we have some changes, mainly targeting healing. First, the 1 vs 1 arena change. Healing reduction is increased from 50% to 60%, which means healing will be 20% weaker. And hopefully this means healers are easier to pressure and less sustain overall in 1 vs 1 fights. And lastly, for 5 vs 5 Hellgates, teams with 2 or more healers will get additional healing sickness. Overall, these are nerfs to healing, targeting both 1 vs 1 frustration and multi-healer comps in 5 vs 5s. Well, that's all the buffs and nerfs that we are going to get with Radiant Wilds patch 1. And let me know which change you think is the biggest and if anything here is going to affect your build. If this helped, don't forget to like and subscribe. There is bunch more Albion Online content on the way, so hang around. But for now, thanks for tuning in and take care.